revolution, conflict is essential in the further selection of superior genes. It was the organization known as the Akatsuki who stirred up such a conflict in the past. For the sake of human evolution, I will revive the Akatsuki and carry out the wishes of Itachi Uchiha.
This is Naruto, the Seventh Hokage, and the Scarlet Spring. A 10-chapter, single-volume manga written and illustrated by Masashi Kishimoto that takes place after the original Naruto manga and is officially labeled as Naruto chapters 701 to 710. It also received an anime adaptation in episodes 19 to 23 in the Boruto anime. This, for me, is some of my favorite content from the Boruto era. And this probably sounds crazy to some of you, but Shin Uchiha is easily my favorite villain to come out of the franchise since the end of the original manga. Today I want to sort of analyze and break down the character in an effort to elaborate on why I found him so compelling, and I also want to talk about the lost potential that this character had as a more long-running Boruto villain. So let's first take a look at the story as a whole. The Seventh Hokage and the Scarlet Spring is all about parenthood and what exactly it means to be a parent. We follow Sarada as she struggles with the absence of Sasuke in her life, and the plot develops in such a way that has her questioning whether or not Sakura is her real biological mother. But as Naruto makes clear to Sarada, accompanied I might add by a beautiful tear-jerking flashback of him and Iruka, whether related by blood or not, it's the love and the bond that is formed and fostered between a parent and child that truly matters. And this theme of parenthood and the love of one's parents is explored in a few different ways throughout the story, but in a good story, to present such a standpoint on a topic, or an ideology if you will, you need to have something or someone to challenge that ideology. And this is where Shin Uchiha comes in. Shin enters the story with two main objectives. The first is to kill Sasuke in order to avenge Itachi, who he idolizes as the pride of the Uchiha and a deadly member of the Akatsuki, not knowing the truth about who Itachi was and what he stood for. The second is to revive the Akatsuki and bring about a new era of war. You see, the reason for this is that Shin is obsessed with evolution, and he believes that peace keeps humans from evolving. And without evolution, creatures shall eventually perish. His obsession mainly revolves around genes and the passing down and natural selection of only the most superior genes. He believes that conflict is how the most superior genes are selected, which is why he aims to undo the peace and stability that Naruto has created across the shinobi world, and to eradicate all the peace-addled genes. To further this goal, Shin has with him many younger clones of himself that he uses not only to assist him with things, but also as stand-ins that possess the same genes as him. If Shin needs a replacement organ, he can simply cut one of his clones open and take what he needs from them without any regard for their lives, feelings, or the bonds of the parent and child-like positions that he and his clones are in. And this is where we have a clash of ideals between Shin and Sakura. He acts as the perfect foil for Sakura and Sasuke as parents. Sakura believes that the primary concern shouldn't be the genes that they carry. That children, or Shin's clones, aren't merely disposable vessels of flesh to carry on superior genes. That the body is where one's feelings and will reside. That the bonds that exist between a parent and a child are so much more than just mere gene transmission. Shin, on the other hand, believes that creating children is no more than an instinctual act to create a stronger species, by mixing together half of each parent's genetic material, and that conflict results in the further selection of superior genes. And this, to me, is a near perfect example of opposing ideologies. It is the idea of love and bonds versus the idea of biology and evolution. Clashes like this in a story are so much more important than the physical fights that follow it, because they turn that physical fight into something else entirely. It takes a conflict to the next level because it's no longer just about who is good and who is evil or who is stronger. It's a physical manifestation of whose ideology will carry on. The characters aren't just fighting to save people or to simply win, they are fighting to stand up for what they believe in on both sides. They are fighting to prove who is right. This is one of the reasons why Naruto vs. Pain or Naruto vs. Sasuke were such impactful fights. The clash of ideologies. And in those fights, when it came to Nagato's views on the cycle of hatred or Sasuke's views on why the shinobi world needed a reset or a forceful revolution, it isn't so black and white. Of course, I'm sure some people immediately side with the hero, but it's difficult for me to say that Pain or Sasuke didn't both have some valid points that made me question whether or not Naruto was fully in the right. And it may sound crazy to some people, but I felt similarly about Shin. Maybe not about his goals, but he is somewhat correct in his view on evolution and the instinctual behavior of human beings. Now, I'm not a biologist, but I'm not a very spiritual or religious man. I know that the main goal of most species, including human beings, is simply to survive and pass on their genes. I'm aware that this thing we call love is a chemical reaction in our brains used to further this goal. We love our partners in order to produce offspring, and we love our children in order to protect them so that our genetic material can carry on. It's obviously more complicated than that with a lot more variations and deviations, but you get what I'm saying. Do I believe that love and bonds and human existence just boils down to our biological instincts? And that in our vast intelligence we've simply misinterpreted these things as something more meaningful? No, not entirely. I think that there are things we simply don't understand, and I think that even if love and bonds are the result of brain chemicals and biological hardwiring, that doesn't make them any less important or any less meaningful. It's simply an explanation, not a reason to doubt its authenticity or its meaningfulness. So what I'm getting at is that while I get where Shin is coming from scientifically, I also understand what Sakura is saying, and I do believe that there is more to love and parental bonds than the biology behind it. While the manga may want you to believe that Sakura is 100% right and Shin's ideas are evil and wrong, I honestly think that the truth of this clash lies somewhere in the middle. Shin is correct about the science and Sakura is correct about the bonds. Shin is just a little warped and doesn't have the full picture. Note that Sakura never outright says that Shin is wrong, just that there is more to it than what he believes. And as Shin suggests, adversity does help one to grow. Naruto knows this better than anyone. There is a quote from the novel Those Who Remain by author G. Michael Hopf that says, "Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times." There's some truth to that, and I think that exploring the topic of how the peaceful times that Naruto created will affect the strength of shinobi in the future is an interesting topic to explore. Boruto has touched on the topic a few times, but not enough in my opinion. One of the more notable instances I can recall is the character Ryuki from the Steam Ninja Scrolls story, and how he was frustrated with the era of peace, wishing that he could have fought alongside Hidan during the glory days of the Akatsuki. There was also the arc with the new 7 ninja swordsmen of the Mist who wanted to restore the Mist Village to the Blood Mist Village and shared a similar discontent with the new peaceful era as Shin and Ryuki did. So in short, yeah, I think that both Shin's outlook on genetics and evolution as well as his discontent for peace were both very compelling and thought-provoking aspects of his character, making him to me personally one of the most well-written villains in the new generation. On a more simplistic note, these two aspects of his character are also just so Naruto villain-esque to me. There's just something that screams Kishimoto's writing about Shin's goals and ideologies. He's very much a Naruto-feeling villain, if that makes sense. But before I wrap this up, I do want to talk about Shin's potential as what could have been an amazing long-running villain in the Boruto series. I think upon first glance, and without really using your imagination, I can see why some people might have heard Shin's goal of reviving the Akatsuki and creating an era of war, and thought that it was basic or unimaginative, or even just plain corny, but I have to respectfully disagree. I've already expressed my interest in Boruto more heavily exploring the topic of Naruto's era of peace and how some might be discontent with it. I think that on the surface level, yeah, reviving the Akatsuki doesn't sound all that special, but I would argue that it's more of a front to explore that cycle of peace creating weakness and weakness creating adversity, adversity creating strength, and strength once again creating peace. I think that this is a theme that Boruto could have ran with for a while, and the crazy thing is that we could still later do the Otsutsuki stuff in the second half of the series, because think about how well Shin's ideology on evolution fits directly with the Otsutsuki and their goals to evolve by way of the chakra fruits. Shin was literally the perfect setup to lead into the Otsutsuki. Now, I don't want this to become like a what if story crafting type video, but I do want to just throw out some ideas regarding where the story could have taken us if Kishimoto intended on Shin being the first major villain in Boruto. First of all, we could see the revival of a new Akatsuki. This would mean an entire new group of badass shinobi whose goals aligned with Shin's for one reason or another. Characters like Ryuki or Shizuma Hoshigaki with different motives but similar outlooks. There could have been a really cool new Akatsuki. I think all it would have taken to make Shin's goals more interesting would be to give him a more fleshed out backstory and motives for going forward with his plans. My coolest idea is that he could have witnessed the events of the Fourth War and came to the conclusion that humankind isn't ready for the possibility of more Otsutsuki coming to Earth, and so farther evolution was necessary. Shin also has many lore ties to characters from Naruto that would make for interesting plot points. For example, his connection not only to Orochimaru but also to Danzo as well. His beliefs about Itachi and the Akatsuki being challenged by Sasuke and Naruto would have also been very interesting to fully explore. Seeing how Shin would react to the truth about Itachi and how it would alter his goals, if at all. There are also things we don't know about him, like what other abilities his Mangekyo Sharingan could potentially have, or even how he unlocked the Mangekyo Sharingan in the first place. Shin being someone who has a body that can take in any genetic material without rejecting it could also be a huge plot point with lots of potential. He already has working Mangekyo Sharingan, more than one, so he could potentially muster up his very own Susanoo. He could also have Hashirama cells if he doesn't already have them, which would mean that there is potential for Shin to unlock the Rinnegan, which would make him even more fearsome and be very symbolic for the leader of the new Akatsuki, filling the role of Pain. But to take that even farther, if Shin's goals became to obtain DNA from an Otsutsuki to transplant, and he somehow turned himself into some pseudo-Otsutsuki of human creation in order to evolve just like they do, that would not only just be really cool, but a great way to segue into the Otsutsuki clan storyline later on. There's just so much crazy stuff that could have been done with Shin when it came to his abilities and his goals. And I think that it's almost a shame that he didn't become a more central player in the Boruto manga. Anyways, I'll stop rambling on about my Shin Uchiha fanfiction. I just want to make it clear that I can imagine a long-running story with Shin Uchiha as the main villain that would have interested me much more as a Naruto fan than what we actually got in Boruto, without missing out on one of the things that makes Boruto so interesting, which is all of the new Otsutsuki knowledge. In conclusion, Shin was a great character for such a short story that captured everything I look for in a good Naruto villain. An interesting and thought-provoking ideology and goals that clash with the beliefs of the heroes, really interesting lore ties that could have been explored very deeply if Kishimoto wanted to, and something I didn't mention yet, but I also love Shin's design. He looks very scary and menacing. Kishimoto utilizes his classic body horror once again with the eyeballs on his head and arms, and then he has his shorter Akatsuki cloak, which looks really cool. Hopefully with this video, I was able to change the way some of you look at Shin. I know there's still going to be a lot of haters, but if just one person thinks that Shin is cool now or a better character than they originally thought because of me, then that's a win in my books. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.